Tree Commission?
No, VHCC won that award.
Oh, okay.
Have they announced it yet?
What they're winning on, I don't know. I haven't heard it. Why don't we check and see? So now. I haven't heard it. Come on. We're gonna do all that, aren't we? This is gonna be wrong right here. Yeah. It took about 30 minutes to go over all the ordinance. On the ordinance stuff. Took about 30 minutes. And,
Good evening. I want to welcome you tonight to the January the 11th meeting of the Abingdon Town Council. And I will ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mr. Craig.
Here.
Mrs. Patterson.
Here.
Mr. Howard.
Here.
Mr. Humphries.
Here.
Mayor Lowe.
Here. Before we go any further, if you will, that all of your cell phones are turned off, that would be helpful. And I will ask Mr. Howard to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge to our flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Are you going to tell them briefly about the sound system?
Yeah, I was getting ready to do that. So we have a new sound system. Can everybody hear us? Okay. So council will not be whispering or rattling papers because we have no way to turn this off, and we hope that you can hear everything we say more clearly. Okay, so approval of minutes. We have the December 5th work session minutes, December 5th regular meeting minutes, and December 19th special called meeting minutes. Council, what's your pleasure?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll move that we approve all minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Craig.
I abstain for the reason that I wasn't here.
Mrs. Patterson. Aye. Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. Kind of loud. Okay, so we are at the public comments section. So at this time, the council will hear public comments from those citizens registered to speak. Please come forward to the podium as your name is called, restate your name, state your address, identify any organization you represent. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments. Each speaker will be timed by the town clerk once your comments begin, and you will be given a cue when 1 minute of speaking time remains. Speakers are reminded that neither council members or staff will address questions or otherwise engage with speakers during the public comment period. Ms. Tripp, okay? Okay, and the first speaker is Mr. Edison Jennings.
My name's Edison Jennings. I live on East Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia. I appreciate the opportunity to address council. I lived at the Meadows Farm on and off for about 15 years, and so I learned about the history of the farm, but I was most fascinated by a box of at least 24 stone artifacts found on the Meadows property. The most significant element being a massive grooved hammer, a museum-worthy example of Neolithic stone technology. I have no reason to doubt significant Native American artifacts might still be found on the Meadows property. Furthermore, considering the number and type of stove implements, it seems reasonable to conclude that the Meadows might have been the site of Native American encampments, which of course would include grave sites. The Meadows is antebellum, a time when many substantial southern farms and plantations were tilled and serviced by slaves. The Meadows was no exception. A former owner of the Meadows, Governor Wyndham Robinson, owned 70 slaves right here in quaint little town of Abingdon. The cottage behind the main house was built prior to the Civil War, and family stories have it that the house slave lived in that cottage. Did Native Americans and slaves live at the Meadows? Yes. Did they die at the Meadows? Yes. Are some buried at the Meadows? Almost certainly. Would yet unlocated artifacts and other evidence of slave and Native American life, possibly including grave sites, be lost forever beneath the sports complex and strip mall? Without a doubt. Abingdon prides itself on being faithful to its history, and the Meadows exemplifies a good portion of that history. The unnecessary loss of the Meadows would prove Abingdon faithless to its history. Let's not reveal ourselves as hypocrites. Some say we are living in the post-truth era. Nothing is true or false, but believing makes it so. The historical record negates that thesis. But what happens when the historical record is destroyed? And make no mistakes, the Meadows has a place in that historical record. American history is not all fireworks and 4th of July. Elements of American history are very dark indeed and include the genocide of Native Americans, the horror of slavery, and the debasement and terror of Jim Crow. The Meadows is exemplary of those elements. Should we pretend institutionalized genocide, slavery, and apartheid are not a part of American history? That would be a lie, and we would lose a vital part of our history and therefore our identity. For how can we know ourselves if we don't know the history that informed us? But the Meadows also stands as evidence of perseverance and courage, including the courage of those who would preserve the record and symbol of these tragic elements of our past and the record of our struggle to grow into a brighter future. To destroy the Meadows in order to feed the vanity and fatten the wallet of a very rich man would not be tragic, because tragedy requires heroism and sacrifice. It would be pathetic. Thank you.
Thank you. And is this Dr. Moore? I think this is Dr. Moore.
Jim Moore, 133 College Street. In October of last year, the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association held a statewide competition, including the likes of Colonial Williamsburg, Kings Dominion, Mount Vernon, Monticello, etc. And the winner of the Travel Attraction of the Year was the Virginia Creeper Trail. Also in October, the Virginia Department of Historic Resources determined the Meadows eligible to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places. All across the Commonwealth of Virginia, these two sites are revered. It's appalling that in spite of this, you continue gleefully skipping down the path to destroy this beautiful scenic viewpoint and destroy one of the most historic sites in the whole region, bringing shame upon us from across the state. This will be your legacy. It is therefore obvious that the time has come to change the seal of the town. You've had your backs turned to it so long, you've forgotten what it stands for. Your actions prove you do not honor our past.
Thank you. Miss Karen Tallman is next.
.289 Lowland Street, Karen Tallman. Comprehensive Plan 2027 was prepared by members of the Planning Commission, Town Council, citizens, and project consultants. The plan was approved by the Town Council in 2007 and updated in 2013. The following is taken directly from this plan's open space opportunities. Residents of Abingdon value the scenic views and natural open spaces within and around the town. Visitors passing through on I-81 experience wonderful vistas of open farmlands and rolling landscapes that surround the town. These scenic qualities enhance and contribute to the overall quality of life and ambience of Abingdon. The topography of the town's perimeter around I-81, provide a pleasant cinematic experience for visitors and residents. It buffers noise and traffic and contains pollutants while separating the town from the busy transportation corridor. It is important that this landscape be carefully considered where new development is proposed. These are your words, not my words. And what were you thinking then, and what are you thinking now? Last May, Abingdon citizens showed their disappointment of the town council's decision to rezone the above-mentioned property. We are not against the sports complex. Your plan mentions a number of possible locations to be considered. A 100-acre tract near Virginia Highlands College, a parcel on Wendell Road, a parcel on Trigg Street, and I understand there was also a parcel near the high school, and last but not least, a parcel on Hillman Highway that was offered for a sports complex. All these locations are away from traffic, the noise, the pollution of the interstate. They would not bury Mary's Meadows in the treasure house of history it holds or impact our precious Creeper Trail, which just recently won a very prestigious award of Travel Attraction of the Year. Have we totally sold out our quaint, historic small-town image to corporate greed, which now holds us hostage? Allow Mary's Meadows in its entirety to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Don't let it become the dumping ground of KVAT's Hilltop removal in order for them to build their flagship store. Save Mary's Meadows.
Darren Ernst.
Hi, I'm Deron Ernst.
Deron, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's all right. 23485 Walden Road. I just wanted to make sure that the council was aware of an article that was published in the Bristol Herald, so pardon me for reading from it. But it was important. It was Monday, January 2nd, 2017. The title of the article is Proximity to Freeway Traffic Linked to Asthma in Kids. It's Dr. Robert Ashley's article, Ask the Doctors. Dear Doctor, we live near a freeway with a lot of traffic. Do I need to be worried about my kids developing asthma? Dear reader, this is a valid question. Cars release a number of small particles into the air that can irritate the lungs. The particulate matter, in addition to nitric oxide and black carbon, has been associated with asthma. Children are more vulnerable to the effects of pollution because their lungs and immune system are still developing. An analysis of many studies published in the journal Allergy found a significant association between traffic-related air pollution and asthma. The association was seen as early as the age of 1 and increased as the child became older. The rise in asthma as kids get older seems to be related both to structural changes that pollution creates in the lungs and to the extent of time that older children spend outside. One of the important aspects of asthma is that it can be exacerbated by stress, noise pollution, and the danger of cars in close proximity may worsen asthma symptoms in children because they can create a more stressful environment. This is an important factor if your child already has asthma. A recent study in Minnesota evaluated the number of asthma cases in the emergency room, in the hospital, and in a clinical setting. The researchers then looked at the proximity of people to a major source of traffic. After taking poverty out of the equation, the researchers found that as traffic density increased, so did the number of asthma exacerbations or worsening of the asthma symptoms. In this study, for every 10% increase in traffic density, there was a 15% increase in asthma-related visits to the emergency room, hospital, or outpatient clinics. Clearly, if you have a child with asthma, moving him or her away from traffic would indeed reduce the chance of severe asthma attack. I just want you to consider a healthier environment for our children to play in. I think playing at the freeway with the noise and the air pollution is very dangerous for them. Thank you.
Mr. Stephen Jett.
I'm Stephen Jett, 333 Court Street. And since I prepared this as an individual with no consultation, I'm going to have to repeat a few things that has just been said because I want to talk about health and safety concerns. I have a written statement here which I'll read with your permission. As a retired environmental professional, I would like to point out that being adjacent to Interstate 81 and to the planned Meadows Shopping Plaza, a location currently proposed for a town sports complex appears to present unique health and safety issues. The constant traffic on Interstate 81 locally increases a variety of deleterious atmospheric pollutants containing vehicular exhaust emissions that include poisonous carbon monoxide, oxygen-robbing ozone, and lung-corrosive nitrogen oxides. Highway traffic also generates lung-unfriendly brake and tire rubber particulates, as well as unburned fuel and oil aerosols involving carcinogenic hydrocarbons. The sports complex would be prevailingly downwind of Marathon Realty's anticipated shopping plaza. In a situation reminiscent of the recent Love's truck stop kerfuffle at Meadowview, the great increase in traffic and its stop-and-go nature on the access roads and in the parking areas of the plaza and the sports complex would add significantly to admissions. Sports event participants would be subject to the negative effects of all of these contaminants, especially the players, whose exertions would result in deeper and more rapid breathing. As underlined in the 2 January Bristol Herald Courier, youngsters notably susceptible to asthma would be particularly vulnerable, since such air pollution can notably increase and exacerbate symptoms. The same may be said in connection with emphysema, bronchitis, and so forth. Noise pollution, a stressor, is also a serious issue next to a freeway, and in addition could mask announcements, play calls, and instructions on the field. Physical safety is a third concern. Accidents do happen on the interstate. Over the years, I have witnessed more than one overturned, even burnt-out big rig within a few miles of Abingdon. Hazards include out-of-control careening off the highway into players and fans, hazardous materials escape from tanker trucks, and toxic combustion products, and the possibility of explosion in the case of vehicle fires. I cannot quantify the severity of these various dangers, but the town seems not to have evaluated them either. I urge the town not to take the risk of putting our young people in harm's way, but to drop its plans to construct a sports complex on the Meadows site, and instead to take advantage of existing alternative opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is Mr. Barry Proctor.
I'm Barry Proctor. I live on Woodlawn Terrace here within the town limits of Abingdon. And I'd like to begin by saying Happy New Year to you. And I hope it truly is for all of us a new year. I think what I see so much of the time, it's an alleged new year. It's a lot of the same things that carry over from the year before we're still left with struggling with. But I think it's an opportunity for us to take a fresh look at things we've looked at for a long time and to be sincere about doing that. There's been a lot of sentiments expressed here already tonight that I'm in agreement with, but I would like to add to that, looking at all of your faces, odds are none of you had an ancestor who spent their life enslaved and knew what that was like to live and die in the service of someone that they never saw the fruits of their labor. And that's a very, very difficult thing. We tried to get past that, but the Emancipation Proclamation didn't erase our racial problems that we have in this country. And 100 years of Jim Crow laws didn't do much about that either. If you had the occasion to see President Obama's speech last night, he said there was hope that we were going to get to a post-racial society in America, and that did not happen. But what it means for us is that we need to keep taking looks at how do we bridge that gap? What do we do that will help to express to all of the people of our community that we are sincere about dealing with the past that has been disgraceful in so many ways, but the only way to remedy that is to recognize it and make it a part of what we recognize. We have plenty to commemorate our veterans in the world wars. We have plenty to commemorate Confederate generals, founders of theaters, all those things that are grateful here. But if you look for signs that talk about what happened out on the meadows, or what happened in the 11 quarter coming down with people marching in shackles for 1,000 miles to be enslaved in the deep south of this country, you're not gonna find anything about that. Do we need to have sports? Sports is not what divides us in this country. We clearly need to provide for our children here today. But to pass by an opportunity as great as this piece of ground, this 40 acres provides us to say, we recognize what happened. We will never forget that. We will remember what took place out on that land, and we will do it in a way that respects that versus dumping 14 feet of dirt from a hillside to have another commercial building there. So what I'm suggesting is that we take advantage of this historical designation for the whole 40 acres and for the property that's out there. It's congruous with what our town is all about in connection with that. It is a distraction from, I think, the things that are part of us here too with the Creeper Trail. So I suggest to you in this new year, we take a fresh look at that. We look at the long view in connection with that, and we look at what this country that we're responsible for really needs, and that's a bridge out to our history. Thank you.
And Michael Trepaccioni. Did I say it right? Good.
Michael Trepaccioni, Lowland Street. What I am about to submit to you are the signatures that represent Abingdon residents and non-residents who are in support to save Mary's Meadows. These signatures also represent many hours of hard work sitting at the entrance of the Creeper Trail, sitting at the outskirts of the farmer's market, knocking on doors, talking to strangers that are visiting Abingdon, talking to our neighbors and the voters at the polls. They represent days of our own time trying to save one of the most historic landmarks in the town. They represent the sentiments of many people who signed and want this land untouched. Mary's Meadows represents more history than the Barter. It represents more history than the Tavern, and it certainly represents more history than the Moonlight Theater, all of whom were voted for and placed on the National Registry of Historic Places. But yet, Mary's Meadows is about to be buried under tons of dirt and sacrificed to a sports complex and practice fields. Buried forever under all that history, under dirt, asphalt, and concrete. That land represents a natural sanctuary for wildlife of all kinds, along with natural groundwater, springs, and ponds so important to the community. Unfortunately, one thing that is not represented in this meeting tonight is the town council who speaks for the citizens of Abingdon. And I'm really sorry to say that. And the many tourists who love the Creeper Trail are not represented. They come from all over the world to be here. You, the town council, have not represented us from the beginning of this Food City project and its goals. At the meeting at the Barter, I got up and I spoke and told Mayor Morgan, at that time he was mayor, you represent us, the taxpayers of Abingdon, not Food City. Since that time, it's evident in all past meetings whose side you guys are on. It's evident in all the voting on any motion that somewhat favors us. It will be defeated 3-2. It is so evident, unfortunately, it's scary. It's we the people, the middle class, against the top 1%. If a mayor or town council member does not represent the people and you're not doing your sworn duty, I'm gonna hand you 2018 signatures, and we haven't done a good job with these. We could have gotten more if we were better organized. We had people running after us, even today, where you're gonna have your afternoon, well, I shouldn't say that. Anyway, 2,000 signatures, and I'd like to hand that to you, please.
Thank you. Okay. So we will How would you like to share these with the council? Would we make copies? Do you all just want to review these individually? Let me just say that we'll see to it that these are shared with the council. Okay? Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Is anybody, nobody else has signed up? Is there anybody else that didn't get to register? Okay. Okay, we're down to petitions, public hearings, and first reading of ordinances, and we have a public hearing tonight, and Ms. Eisenhower is going to tell us about the public hearing.
I think Mr. Taylor is going to join me with this. We have proposed for your consideration this evening a group of 35 definitions which serve to amend the town's zoning ordinance, Article 26. We advertised in the Bristol Herald Courier for this public hearing on December 28th and January 4th. It's the first reading of this type of ordinance, and let's see, we need to, first of all, add a few terms. I think there are 10 of those, and update with regard to the most recent recodification of the Virginia Code, simply code sections on the remaining portion with a reorganization of one of the terms. So we have 35 in all, 10 new ones, 24 that are simply written down with new Virginia Code numbers, and one that we reorganized with a number and 2 subsections.
Okay.
So
Would you, or are you going to do these by page?
I'm going to go through them more quickly and just give you the number.
I would like for you to go through them by page if you could.
Well, I could do
I
that.
think there's 88 pages of them. So that way that everything is, can be looked at that way.
Okay. I'm going to trade off to Mr. Taylor shortly.
Okay.
I'll go when you're on. We start with a new definition, number 26-5, accessory use. If it's okay with you, with the definitions in front of you, I won't go through each and every one of those.
Which page is that on?
That would be on,
Page 42.
this one doesn't
Well,
have page
mine
number.
starts at page 1.
Does it have
If
red?
it's not in red, it's not new.
Okay, but, so the first definitions are gonna be at 42 this time?
What you have is a copy of the old.
I know,
You have the old one first, and I believe it starts on page 41.
one, okay.
Do you have that?
I'll begin in a second.
And some of the new ones were placed in simply because there was references in other parts of the zoning ordinance that may use that term, and we had no definition for it. So that was the whole intent there.
Okay. 26.5,
Are you there?
yes, I am.
26.5, accessory use. That's a new definition. I'm just gonna ask if there are questions.
Are you gonna, are you going to read that, what exactly the definition is, please?
I can
For
do
Sean,
that.
one of the two of you.
Accessory use, this one has this dark draft print. Yours lighter? Okay.
Accessory use means uses of land that are found on the same parcel as the principal use, but are subordinate and incidental. Our next one is 2612, and it's a recodification to the Code of Virginia. I will, since that's just a recodification, I just won't read those.
Recodification has only a number change.
Since this is a public hearing, wouldn't you want to
It's
go
not-
ahead? Oh,
It's
this
not
is-
open yet.
Well, I mean, it will be. So wouldn't you want to go ahead and read that definition? Since it's going to be a public hearing held.
You can read it or I will, it doesn't
Okay, I
matter.
can read it. This is adult daycare. It's a recodification to make it updated to Virginia Code. Means any facility that is either operated for profit or that desires licensure and that provides supplementary care and protection during only a part of the day to 4 or more aged, infirm, or disabled adults who reside elsewhere, except a facility or portion of a facility licensed by the State Board of Health or the Department of Behavioral Health and developmental services, and, in parentheses, II, the home or residence of an individual who cares for only persons related to him by blood or marriage. Included in this definition are any two or more places, establishments, or institutions owned or operated or controlled by a single entity and providing such supplementary care and protection to a combined total of 4 or more aged, infirm, or disabled adults. And it's in parentheses. See subsection 63.2-100, Code of Virginia, 1950, as amended. Then we go to page 44, 26-31, and that is a new definition, assembly hall. Means a large room used to hold public meetings, meetings of members of an organization such as a school, church, or deliberative assembly. Our next one is on page 49, 26-84, Child Daycare Center. Means a child day program offered to, in parentheses, 2 or more children under the age of 13 in a facility that is not the residence of the provider or any of the children in care, or, in parentheses, 13 or more children at any location. Child day program means a regularly operating service arrangement for children where during the absence of a parent or guardian, a person or organization has agreed to assume responsibility for the supervision, protection, and well-being of a child under the age of 13 for less than a 24-hour period. And then see subsection 63.2-100, Code of Virginia, 1950, as amended.
The next one is 26-97 on page 51. That's a commission and/or planning commission referred to the Abingdon Planning Commission, which is created by the town in accordance with Code of Virginia 15.2-2210 and charged with promoting the orderly development of the town and its environs. Next page, we have a new definition, 26-100. Comprehensive plan refers to the plan prepared and recommended by the Abingdon Planning Commission and adopted by the Abingdon Town Council in accordance with the requirements of Title 15.2, Chapter 22, Article 3, 15.2, 2223 of the Virginia Code to guide and accomplish a coordinated, adjusted, and harmonious development of land within the town in a manner which will, in accordance with the present and probable future needs and resources, best promote the health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare of the town's inhabitants.
Our next one is 26-108, page 52. It is a recodification. Courtyard means a space open and unobstructed to the sky, located at or above grade level on a lot and bounded on 3 or more sides by walls of a building. Our next one below that is section 26-110, correctional institution. Community correctional facility, local correctional facility, and state correctional facility. And see subsection 53.1-1, Code of Virginia, 1950. Then we go to page 53, 26-119, daycare facility. Means a facility where during the absence of a parent or guardian, a person or organization provides supervision and care to a child under the age of 13 for less than 24-hour period. And where such care is offered to 2 or more children under the age of 13 in a location that is not the residence of the provider of any of the children in care, or to 13 or more children at any location for purposes of this zoning ordinance. The term includes facilities commonly known as child care center, daycare, daycare center, nurseries, play schools, preschools, and nursery schools. The term excludes the following: school extended day, enrichment programs, family day homes, an educational facility other than preschools and nursery schools, unless such facility is providing daycare center outside of regular classes and care provided by a religious institution or organization, or a facility operated by a religious institution or organization during short periods of time while the parents or guardians of the children are attending religious services. And see section 26-84 through 26-85. And then we have daycare family means the keeping for part-time care and or instruction, whether or not for compensation of 6 or less children at any one time within a dwelling, not including members of the family residing on the premises. And then 26-121, daycare group means an establishment for the care and or instruction, whether or not for compensation of 7 or more persons at any one time. Child nurseries, preschools, and adult care facilities are included in this definition.
Next is 26-124, development means a tract of land developed or to be developed as a unit under single ownership or unified control, which is to be used for any business or industrial purpose, or is to contain 3 or more residential dwelling units. The term development shall not be construed to include any tract of land which will be principally devoted to agricultural production. 15.2-2201 Code of Virginia. The next one is 2 underneath that one, and it's 26-126 districts as referred to the Code of Virginia as amended, 15.2-2288 and 15.2-2287, 2303, and 2286.
Then we have 26-152 on page 56. ECRB refers to the Entrance Corridor Review Board created by the Town Council pursuant to subsection 15.2-2306 Code of Virginia 1950 as amended to administer the town's entrance corridor overlay district regulations.
Now, I had a question about that one, if you'll stop just a second. Who hears that now?
Planning Commission.
Planning Commission. So you want to create a new board that only hears entrance corridor overlay?
Well, that was
This is a recodification.
This is new in the Virginia Code.
Oh, okay.
So there's an additional reference. We can decide
Whether we do it or not.
how to do
Okay,
that.
okay, that was my question.
When this was created, when the entrance corridor was created initially.
Okay.
Then we go on to 26-160, Family Day Home on page 57. Means a child day program offered in the residence of the provider of the home of any of the children in care for 1 to 12 children under the age of 13, exclusive of the provider's own children and any children who reside in the home when at least one child receives care for compensation. The provider of a licensed or registered family day home shall disclose to the parents or guardians of children in their care the percentage of time per week that persons other than the provider will care for the children. Family day homes serving 5 through 12 children, exclusive of the provider's own children and any children who reside in the home shall be licensed. However, no family day home shall care for more than 4 children under the age of 2, including the provider's own children and any children who reside in the home, unless the family day home is licensed or voluntarily registered. However, a family day home where the children in care are all related to the provider by blood or marriage shall not be required to be licensed. See subsection 63.2-100 Code of Virginia.
I have a question, please, on 26-152, back up one, please, as well as Ms. Lowe had a question. The Entrance Corridor Review Board, and each of these that you're changing, do you have copies of the old ordinance?
It's in your packet.
In my packet here, okay. But so why did you change, what this change is a new law, refers to Entrance Corridor Review Board created by the Town Council pursuant to, why did these change? Why do we need to make these changes? Because the law changed?
Because they were recodified. In other words, in the old, most of these in the old version, which is the version that we're trying to amend, it might say 15.1, which no longer exists. When they changed and recodified the code, then they changed those numbers, and we felt a need to do that in the ones that were truly appearing to be out of date.
Okay. Well, I'll have more questions in a little while, but, thank you.
But 24 of them are for that very reason.
Okay.
The original definition is 26-149
Okay.
on page 15.
Okay.
So they actually just had different code numbers.
Yes.
Well, it's just making me compliant to match up with the Code of Virginia.
So that when you cross-reference, it is really a match.
Well, that's good. Thanks for explaining that in layman's terms so that I can understand it and everybody, can understand that. Thank you so much.
What page is that one? I think it's
57.
pages. Page 57, 26-165 is the definition for farmer's market. It's a public market at which farmers and often other vendors sell products directly to consumers, namely any horticultural, viticulture, dairy, livestock, poultry, bee, and other farm or garden product, fish or fishery product, other foods, and arts and crafts.
And it says.
Now, ours doesn't say arts and crafts. Did you add
We
that?
added that.
Okay, I was
And
gonna ask
also-
that question.
That was a planning commission
It
recommendation.
was.
And also it sell produce instead of sell products is what ours read, correct?
Right.
Okay, so it's produce.
Yes.
Well, there's some product, some of it's product and some of it is produce.
Yeah, down
I
at the.
think it covers actually both, the way it
Right.
reads it at this point. Because I will tell you a little later, Planning Commission has seen this and recommends it to the council.
We changed a couple things.
Yes, which are reflected herein. 26-185 on page 59. Food or food specialty shop means food stores that typically sell items that are considered as unique and high-value food items made in small quantities from high-quality ingredients compared to staple foods, specialty foods, and may have higher prices due to more expensive ingredients and labor.
Then we go to page 60, 26-186, frontage. Means the continuous uninterrupted distance, usually along which a parcel abuts an adjacent road or street. Then we go to your definition, means a facility that provides controlled conditions in which scientific or technological research, experiments, and measurement may be performed. Then we go to page 68, occupancy, residential. For purposes of this zoning ordinance, this term refers to the number of persons who may reside together within one dwelling unit as a single housekeeping unit. Each of the following shall be deemed a single housekeeping unit: one person, two or more persons related by blood or marriage together with any number of their children, including biological children, stepchildren, foster children, or adopted children. Two persons unrelated by blood or marriage, together with any number of the children of either of them, including biological children, stepchildren, foster children, or adopted children. For within certain designated university residential zoning districts, up to three persons unrelated by blood or marriage. Within all the residential zoning districts, up to four persons unrelated by blood or marriage, or 6, a group of persons required by law to be treated as a single housekeeping unit in accordance with the Federal Fair Housing Act or similar state law.
I hate to tell him this, I'll let him read the whole thing. That one has not been changed. That one was made red only in yours, and maybe theirs.
We haven't read it.
is red on ours.
Sorry, but that one hasn't been touched, so we'll go with.
Sounded really good.
It did sound good. 26-284, office medical, means any building or portion thereof in which the primary use is the practice of dentistry or medicine, with the exception of eye methadone treatment or double eye opioid replacements, other than opioid replacements approved for the treatment of opioid addiction by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. And you would see further opiate substitution treatment and substance abuse treatment facilities also.
Then we go to 16-286, official map. Means a map of legally established and proposed public streets, waterways, and public areas adopted by a locality in accordance with provisions of Article 4, subsection 15.2-2233 except Code of Virginia, 1950. See subsection 15.2-2201 Code of Virginia.
26-288 is open space, means land, an area not covered by buildings, roads, driveway, parking areas, or outdoor storage areas, including but not limited to landscape areas, gardens, woodlands, walkways, courtyards, or lawns, and outdoor recreation areas. Except as otherwise provided by this title, open spaces include setback areas that meet the requirements defined in this chapter. Then we have three sections that follow: 26.289, 26.290, and 26.291 that are open space common, open space private, and open space public. We can read each of those if you like.
The only reason I was asking for you to read them is so the public can hear it also. So that, because when they have the hearing, that they will already know what it.
Right, and for at least 2 weeks, maybe longer, we have had a copy of this in Kim's office, and it will remain there if anyone would like to come by and read it.
We didn't have anything pointing to it.
Could we put that on our website as well?
It is.
It's
Okay,
there.
Good.
It's been there.
Okay.
And I'll go on to the next one if that's okay. 26.293 is opiate substitution treatment. And I have a hard time with this because these red lines are,
I've got it.
okay.
Means an organization that administers or dispenses an approved drug as specified in subsection 54.1-3507 of the Code of Virginia, 1950 as amended, pertaining to the scope of practice of and qualifications for licensed substance abuse treatment practitioners. See substance abuse treatment facilities.
26.306 is a new definition. Plat or plats of subdivision means the schematic representation of land divided or to be divided, and information in accordance with the provisions of 15.2, 2241, 2242, 2258, 2262, and 2264, and other applicable statutes. See State Code 15.22201.
Then we have, this is a new, where a few definitions were combined into a single definition and then put as subparts. And it's 26-308, pools, hot tubs, and spas.
Hasn't been changed at all. It's simply been reorganized, so it looks more usable.
Then we go to page 76, 26-351. Site plan means the proposal for development of a subdivision, including all covenants, grants, or easements, and other conditions relating to use, location, and bulk of buildings, density of development, common open space, public facilities, and such other information as required by the subdivision ordinance to which the proposed development or subdivision is subject. See subsection 15.2-2201 Code of Virginia.
26-353 is a new definition for a special exception. It means a special use that is not permitted in a particular district except by a special use permit under the provisions of this chapter and any zoning ordinance adopted herewith. 15.2-2201 Code of Virginia.
Go to 26-368, substance.
361. Street.
We go to 26-361 street. Means a highway, street, avenue, boulevard, road, lane, alley, or public way. See subsection 15.2-2201 Code of Virginia.
This is one that's printed through subdivision. Can you read yours?
Then we go to 26-367 subdivision. Unless otherwise defined in an ordinance adopted pursuant to subsection 15.2, 2240, means the division of a parcel of land into 3 or more lots or parcels of less than 5 acres each for the purpose of transfer of ownership or building development. Or if a new street is involved in such division, any division of a parcel of land, the term includes re-subdivision, and when appropriate to the context shall relate to the process of subdividing or to the land subdivided, and solely for the purpose of recordation of any single division of land into 2 lots or parcels. A plat, such division shall be submitted for approval in accordance with subsection 15.2-2258, see subsection 15.2-2201, Code of Virginia.
26-368 is a new definition for substance abuse treatment facilities or any facility, use, or activity subject to regulation and licensure pursuant to 37.2-404 of the Code of Virginia, subject to the following restrictions as well as conditions or restrictions imposed by the legislative body as part of the special exception permit. No such facility shall be located within 1/2 mile of any public or private K-12 school, public or private licensed daycare center, church, synagogue, or other place of worship residentially zoned District R1 and R2, nor within 1,000 feet of a residential dwelling.
Now, just as a point of clarification, what is on ours is a different subsection number. Ours says 37.1-179.1.
Well, 37.1 has been recodified, so you
Okay.
must have gotten one of the first
Okay,
copies. We will have this
okay.
double checked for next time.
Okay.
37.2 is the new codification.
Okay.
I have 37.1 on mine too.
Okay.
Then we go to page 81, 26-397, variance. Means, in the application of the zoning ordinance, a reasonable deviation from those provisions regulating the size or area of a lot or parcel of land, or the size, area, bulk, or location of a building or structure. When the strict application of the ordinance would result in unnecessary or unreasonable hardship to the property owner, and such need for a variance would not be shared generally by other properties, and provided that such variance is not contrary to the intended spirit and purpose of the ordinance. It shall not include a change in use, which change shall be accomplished by rezoning or by conditional zoning. See subsection 15.2-2201, Code of Virginia.
And you skipped theater, so let's do the updated part of that. A building, or that's 26-377.
Ours is in black.
But it is a red one. Yeah, that one we'll have in the best form for you next time too. Theater means a building or portion thereof used for dramatic, operatic, motion picture, musical productions, or other performances. Oh, you got the next one? I think there's only one more.
That's 26-411, zoning or to zone means the process of classifying land within a locality into areas and districts. Such areas and districts being generally referred to as zones by legislative action and the prescribing and application in each area and district of regulations concerning buildings and structure, designs, building, and structure placement and uses to which land, buildings, and structures within such designated areas and districts may be put. See subsection 15.2-2201 Code of Virginia.
Okay.
That concludes them. These were brought before Planning Commission at its December 28th meeting and was unanimously recommended to the council to adopt. The second reading and your vote would be taken, not necessarily at this time, but the next council meeting, which I believe is the 6th of February. And if you adopt it at that time, these terms would be 30 days later effective, so it would be March 6th.
Okay, thank you. Before you leave, council, do you have any questions?
No questions. I'll reiterate that it was, the vote was unanimous vote of the attending members that were on, that were there. This is the fourth time I've gone through these definitions, so I don't mind if anybody else has to go through them once.
I went through them for 4 years too.
So it doesn't bother me more for everybody. But we did have some changes. Those are reflected in the readings that Counselor Eisenhower has given us. So, you know.
Okay.
And we have made notes with regard to those little things that need to be tweaked.
Okay.
Take care of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I just want to be absolutely sure I'm clear on one thing. The board that's referred to in the entrance corridor is the planning commission. They're not creating a new board. Is that correct?
That gives us the ability to, if it comes incumbent to do so.
But right now, it's the
Right now, the
planning
planning commission is taking care of
I
that.
thought I was clear on it, I just wanted to be sure.
Okay.
And that was just to be in compliance with what state is now.
Exactly.
The state now allows that, so. And of course, being a Dillon state rule, we can't do it unless they allow us to.
Exactly. Thank you.
Any more questions, council? Okay, thank you. So I declare the public hearing open. Is anyone in the public would like to speak to the council about the proposed changes to the Code of Ordinances?
Joe Levine, 340, 350 Green Spring Road. I'm not speaking to the details of the changes, but to the process, and just requesting that in the future with something like this, I looked at it on the website. It was quite complicated because first you had, I don't know, 20, 25 pages with all the definitions as it is today. Then under that you had the revisions in red. So if you wanted to see what was changed, you had to go from the one at the bottom and scroll up 20 pages, or print them both out, go side by side. I just request, and I think it might be easier for town council also, that in the future on things like this, where it's some things are taken out, some things are added, some things are changed, instead of, maybe have the two of them, but it would be real nice I think the council and certainly for the public that's trying to understand it, to have maybe a 6-page document that says, these are being added and the reason, these are being changed and the reason. It would just a process suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Again, would anyone else like to speak to the council about the proposed changes and additions to the ordinances? Yes, sir.
I don't really have anything to say, except I forgot to bring my copy of the thing, but I did notice a couple of typos. I brought those by tomorrow if you'd like.
I think they caught them tonight. Miss Eisenhower and, yeah.
It wouldn't hurt to double check.
Right.
It wouldn't hurt for you to do that, just to double check. Just to make sure things are true.
That'd be good. You could just shoot it in an email if you don't mind. So third time, anyone else like to speak about the proposed changes to the ordinance? Hearing none, I will declare the public hearing closed. Now, it's my understanding that this is an ordinance change and does not require a motion until the second reading. Okay.
I mean, you can go ahead and do it, but you don't have to do that.
Okay, and we are back to the agenda unless council wants to. Okay. So there being no second reading of ordinances, no consideration of any bids, reports from the town manager and assistant town manager.
We didn't have
None.
anything to put on the agenda this time. And
Okay.
most everything we have was covered downstairs in the work session.
So what I would like to bring up that came from the work session is that Mr. Costello, and I think probably many of the town staff that I don't know about, but for sure Mr. Costello, the Tourism Advisory Committee and our treasurer, Chuck Banner, has been working diligently on some tourism zone incentives for businesses in tourism zones. And I would just like to recognize their hard work. They've worked very hard on this, and I think Mr. Costello will be presenting this in its entirety at the February council meeting, and he will present it to the Tourism Advisory Committee the next day at the Tourism Advisory Committee meeting. And thank you so much. Okay. Resolutions, none. Old business, none. Matters not addressed at work session meeting. Council? Is there any addressed at the old business? I mean, at the work session?
If you wanna make a motion, is this one you can do?
I would say this is when you would do it.
Okay. I had some concern about, some of the, first of all, I wanna thank Mr. Trepachani and Karen Tallman and Friends of Abingdon. Thank you all for your hard work as citizens by providing the concern and the 2,000 signatures that you all gave to us, the town council, for us to review. We appreciate you taking the time out of your personal life to participate in your local government and practicing your rights as citizens. This is very powerful, and I thank you for that. It was brought to my attention, excuse me, at the Historical Preservation Review Board, Ms. Kathy Shearer attended this meeting, and on the Meadows property, the 40 acres Meadows property, Ms. Shearer suggested that there could be slave graves, as you all have presented the citizens here tonight to us. It disturbs me a great deal that that nothing has been done at this point to look into those graves as far as having, it's a little touchy here. I think there needs to be more significant research done on those graves, if there is any graves at this Meadows. I think a grave is very, very sacred. I really think that it should be covered extensively. If there is any slave graves over, African American graves over there, or a Native American, I think that we should take responsibility as a council, and it was provided free of charge that Mrs. Shearer could go over to the property with other individuals, no charge, and check that and make sure there's no graves there, or there may be. So I'd like to make a motion tonight to allow Ms. Shearer and her crew of workers to go into the Meadows and look at that issue.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'm sorry, I didn't know Kathy Shearer was an archaeologist.
I don't know her matter of expertise, but she seemed well versed to know how to find graves. She's found graves before. I've seen some of her work on Facebook, actually, so she's able to locate graves that other people cannot locate.
I just didn't know that she had the certification or the education to, be able to protect and preserve those assets that that could or may be found.
Well, that's a good point, but I think that sometimes when people have a gift, they can use that gift as finding water. They can also find graves, and I've seen it done before. I've seen this method done before, and it works, and she's found these graves before.
I'd like to say that, first off, that I don't think the issue of the graves is any type of partisan issue relative to whether you're for the development or not. I think if there are graves out there, I keep hearing that there are graves out there. I think it's incumbent upon us to preserve those graves. We would not want Sinking Springs graves to be destroyed. It's a human dignity issue with me. So, Rick, to your point, if we need to hire a consultant or whatever, I think the town council should put that issue behind them, and let's deal with it to the public sense.
So I'd like to ask the the assistant town manager, is there something called a 106? What is it that we have?
Section 106.
Section 106. Well, would we not get into that at that point?
I can't speak directly to what the 106 totally encompasses, but I do know that this development, the permit process does trigger the 106 review.
So I think that 106
And,
review at that time.
Well, that's a federal thing, and I think we as a locality have a responsibility to take care of our people. I think we should do this ourselves and find it out. And if it's appropriate during the 106 process, give the Corps of Engineers that information.
I agree. Anyone else?
Well, are you establishing any timeline, or you have any kind of a budget for this process? I mean,
Well, the budget, Ms. Shearer can go over there without any money, and she can handle that, and if she finds the grave, it can, it can be discovered, and then they can take proper measures to do whatever they need to do to preserve the graves.
I suggest that if there are costs, if we need a consultant, that those funds be taken from the sports complex bond issue fund, because it would be appropriate for that development to have that study done.
Anybody else?
I guess the other thing that the other thing that I would wonder would be, and one of the things is like anything else, there's really not, we haven't been given the time to think about it or even discuss it. And certainly this would have been a good work session discussion item. Could have been possibly brought on up here rather than kind of just a last minute thing.
Okay.
So, I certainly would be up to listening to more, but, I certainly, if something sprung on us at the last minute, I just don't feel comfortable voting.
Well, I respect your opinions, Mr. Humphries, thank you. But I will say that October the 7th, we were, the former town council was notified by citizens, a citizen that came up to that podium and did discuss probability of graves on that site, and no steps have been taken to even check into those graves.
The study that was done, did it show any grave sites, the archaeological study that had been done prior?
I haven't looked at it in such a long time. I don't think so. I think that, I'll just repeat what we were, what my understanding was, is that bones and those kinds of things would be identified from animals that might have died or been buried on the property. As far as, I think someone had alleged at one point a cemetery was on the property, and that was not found, I believe, according to the study, if I'm correct. I can't remember. I might be completely wrong about that, but I am really speaking off the cuff here. I'd love to be able to recite what that study said, but I just don't have the familiarity with that. I haven't looked at it in a long time. I'd have to go back and check.
I do have another, I'm sorry. Another question I have, we are noted to be a historical town of Abingdon, and, I feel like that we should do our due diligence to preserve the history, and what would it hurt for somebody to come over there and walk on that property in whatever way that Ms. Shearer or whomever, an expert, can go over there and look? What would it hurt if it doesn't cost a dime? That's what my,
I don't know if it would hurt a thing. I just think it is a subject that we should delve into deeper than just, a last minute motion. I wasn't aware of anything that was going on about that.
Okay. My question would be about the land disturbance. What would be involved if she goes over there and does identify what appears to be, bone matter? What happens then? Do they actually
I don't know the
dig?
answer to that. I think Ms. Shearer needs to speak for herself, and I
Yeah.
hope that we could invite her here and possibly put this on the agenda for our next meeting and go into that at that point, and
Yeah.
respectfully.
I think
thank
those
you.
would need to be answered, because the land disturbing can go towards an issue of interference with the permit process that's already in place.
And thank you
So,
for that.
Yeah, I mean, I
And-
think that, we'd be happy, and in the meantime, we can also look into, refresh our minds with the
Archaeology.
Thank you, I
Archaeology
can't
survey
speak.
study.
Yeah, and look back at those things again and see what, see what it's referred to. And if we can invite Ms. Shearer to come and do a presentation at the work
I'd
session
love to do
meeting, if you
that.
want
And,
to do that.
also, I want to go back to the Magic Mart development back in the day. They started digging at that point, they found and had already disturbed a lot of the artifacts and everything there, and, you know, they couldn't even preserve them. So we want to prevent that, and with the tons of dirt that's possibly gonna be dumped over on the 40 acres from the 33 acres, I'd like to see that, you know, covered before that happens. I mean, I would rest in peace better knowing that we are treating, like Wayne said, the graves, the burials with dignity, if there is any. I'd rather be more safe than sorry, with all due respect.
Yeah.
Cindy, if it's all right with you, Mr. Humphries is not comfortable voting tonight, and I understand that. Rick, the reason I didn't bring it up in the work session is I was moved by Mr. Jennings' presentation, and I didn't realize the history of this place. And I agree with him, from what I know, that there is a possibility that there are some grave sites there, and I'm greatly concerned that we not do the right thing about that.
Right.
And I think if Cindy will agree,
I will.
we'll bring it up at the next work session.
We've got a motion and a second, so we're
Yeah,
gonna have
motion
to
and a second.
vote, or we're gonna have
She
to.
can withdraw
we
her.
can
You want
have
me to
to
withdraw,
your motion.
Hal, withdraw that motion and ask that this be placed on the agenda for the next meeting, please?
And I'll withdraw myself.
Okay, and so what we'd like to know
Hang on,
is
now, work
where
session-
we are in
Work
the
session agenda or agenda?
work session agenda. And what we need to know is where we are in the permitting process and where that kind of study would fall. Does it fall after whatever's going on now, or, you know, let us know where that would fall in the process.
Okay, thank you. And
Okay.
also, may I say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
I've also presented with great compassion, a lot of information, well, I won't say a lot, I'm sorry, quite a bit of information about health issues, as I read the newspaper article about the asthma that Ms. Ernst presented, and I sent it all to the council so that we'd all see it. And, you know, we're dealing with folks with younger lungs, you know, and they're developing. And I've studied some of that. I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor, but I've talked to a couple of doctors about this. And, you know, 'cause it's possible that children can have heart problems, also, lung cancer, asthma, and such situation as that near an interstate like this, because of that diesel particulate matter that's heavier than the cars. I've even studied on the internet, it said that brake dust has asbestos. Cars like performance cars like Corvettes and Land Rovers, well, it's not performance, but, you know, high-end cars and vehicles. And asbestos comes off those brakes when you're braking at exit 17. There's a lot of brake dust that comes through there. And, you know, with this being said, and all the concern about the health issues for the children, has anybody on the council, I mean, I haven't heard anything, but have you all considered possibly like a study for environment study there, for how much particulate matter is there, and how much, you know, I mean, it's probably gonna be quite a bit of an amount of money to do this, but if we are going to put children there, you know, safety should be our number one concern, and also evacuation procedures if there is some type of hazardous truck with batteries or explosion with, you know, poisonous gases. You know, I always would love to have my horse trailer hooked up, because you never know when that might happen near, you know, the interstate. We might have to evacuate. So, you know, we need to look at the safety and the liability issues of this as well. That's my feelings, and we can also discuss this at a work session.
Yeah, and that will be fine. I hope we haven't diminished, degraded, or undervalued all the houses in Winterham now. I hope they're not gonna have a hard time selling their houses because we think there's, you know, death running around in the air.
Well, I was saying younger lungs.
Well, but there's children
and
over
they're,
there.
and they're running, and they're breathing harder, and again, I'm not a physician, but
There's a lot-
this should be considered.
As I looked at the report, one of the things that wasn't very obvious to me was they talked about freeways. You know, I didn't know if that was a 12 lane or 15 lane, or like we have, you know, a 4 lane. So, you know, I wasn't sure exactly what that they were basing that on, and also the number of vehicles per, you know. And I think all that is stuff that you could look at and take into matter. I know recently in driving, we drove from Abingdon to Dallas, Texas, and there were more than 7 elementary schools or high schools, I think most of them were elementary schools, including Marion, that have theirs within, just a very short distance. From that, I can't speak for the school board of Marion, but I've got a feeling that they wouldn't have done that if they had thought at all, that there would have been any kind of repercussion of those children being there, not just for a ball game, but for 8 hours a day. And I think that that's something.
Please, the council is speaking, so if you'll please just let the council speak. Thank you.
So, but I worry, I certainly wouldn't want to put any child in danger. But I certainly also, want to see a qualified and quantified type of report, so that we, gives us some footing, and and it keeps us from spending taxpayer money frivolously, and so I think all that is important for us to do that. I was privy to kind of as a kid being on the dig when Howard McCord was a state archaeologist of Virginia, and I was in the Archaeological Society for many years, and Howard McCord did the 75 corridor. They were getting ready to expand 75. They were going to expand it, and they were going to pave it. And it was interesting what that they did when they came up there and they took bulldozers and took the topsoil and all that stuff off, and then did their study from that. They ripped all the soil out. It was one of the most egregious, I thought, acts of archaeology that I'd ever seen. It certainly wasn't what that I was brought up to think an archaeologist would do. But that's what the state had allowed at that time to do. I don't know what they do now. I do know, being involved in some of the stuff with Colonial Williamsburg and different things like that, that a lot of times, especially in the Yorktown area where there's a lot of colonial people that are found, and a lot of times they're found in buildings and where buildings are going to be built, that one of the things is that they do a sample of them, and then they basically let them pave over them. It provides actually somewhat of protection. They can come back if there's a historic value to those. And then, going back to Ms. Shear, one of the things that I worry about, and something that hopefully we'll discuss, and that's the liability of if she does find something, a body, then how is it, where is it placed? Is it left there? Is it, and you and I both have African-American friends, and I have asked one of them not to come because he wants to talk about the slavery issue and all the white people sitting on the board up here. And he is very much against reliving the slave days, and even if as an educational component. But those are all things that, I think as we delve into this, maybe we can answer some of those.
I will invite Ms. Shear with council's permission to the work session so that she
Yes,
can address
please.
these questions. I think that would be really helpful for
I
council.
know that in the town of Chilhowee, I don't remember if it's the left side or the right side of the interstate coming back toward Abingdon, headed south, they discovered remains of burial there, and I'm not sure if it was slaves or Native American. I think it was Native American, and they had to stop that project altogether when they found those, the remains, and they had to go through them, and it makes the process harder and more expensive. And the other thing is, they just left it, they had to put it in a mound, like cover it up in a mound, sort of like a memorial. So, I just want whatever is there, if there is anything there, I want it to be, us give dignity to the families that buried them there and their bodies, or their remains.
Okay, on the work session.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Craig, do you have anything that you'd like to?
I just wanted to say that, to Rick's point about the air situation, that when you're planning a highway or you're designing a highway, you can make air quality measurements. I don't know what the costs are, but I would like to see the council, these are two very important things that keep coming up. I would like to see us answer these questions. I think it should come upon us to listen and try to give the public the best answers we can possibly.
Well, these are the kind of questions that I think go to Emory and Henry. Emory and Henry have the young people out there. They have the people in their dorms. They have they're in a very close proximity to the interstate also. And you know, maybe Emory and Henry has already done a study that we could maybe draw off of. Obviously, if it is
There's a lot of tree, boundaries between the interstate, I believe, Mr. Humphreys and Emory and Henry.
I
There's
know it's
lot
a
of tree.
complicated issue, and I know that wind and all of that plays into it, and the volume of traffic, and what the amount of trucks, and just from my experience.
Right.
That all that goes into it, and I don't know what would be I know that you can make a study, I don't know what the cost would be.
Yeah, well, and even going up through, as you go up through, what's the, is it 460? The one that you get there at Troutdale and go to,
460.
460.
And
or,
220.
Yeah, they put in several new complexes, sports complex right there beside their roads, and those are 4-lane roads. Maybe some of those have answered those same questions, Cecile. I mean, we're talking about this, the fences right there, they've all been built within the last 3 or 4 years.
You might want
We'd
to
be
ask
happy
them
to
what
check into
EPA
it.
studies that they did before they built that.
Yeah.
That would be
I
good.
know that Domtar and Kingsport is actually right underneath the interstate, so
Right.
I might check with them
Yeah,
too, to see if they
Domtar.
did some air quality, because you can actually stand under it and the interstate's right there at
Right.
your head, so
Right.
be happy to check into it.
Good.
And
Okay.
Ms. Lowe, Mr. Jennings.
We've had public comments, and
Okay.
Mr. Jennings was one of the 3-minute speakers. So if I deviate now, it's gonna open the council up to something that I'm not willing to open up. So I'm sorry. Public comments are at the beginning of the meeting, and they're for 3 minutes. Mr. Humphreys?
Oh.
Vice Mayor Humphreys?
What do I have to say?
Yes, what
Well,
do you have to say?
Actually, I just wanted, I wanted to, there was a, and without using any names, there was an accident that had happened at the farmer's market. Farmer's market had gotten hit. That has been now adjudicated. The person that was there was charged with reckless driving only. So that just kind of gets us up to date with what happened there. Also, and this, and I'm sorry, because I wanted to say both of these down at the work session, because we did not have time to do these. I'm having to do it here. This is to John Dew, Mr. Dew. I wanted to do this downstairs. And it's just, have we heard anything, or have we made any decisions, because it's been quite a while, about the turn lane in front of Brown Dental?
We've had multiple discussions about that, both work session level and I think in this challenge. It's an appropriate turn situation there, given the side streets and the entrance to Brown Dental.
Why don't you have
Well,
a meeting?
The reason is I almost got rear-ended there again the other day doing exactly what you asked me to do. And I've looked at similar situations, and they have a turn lane going both turns. So it's incumbent on whoever's the driver to make sure that they're watching out for the other driver. And when those people start rolling, coming down right there in front of Miners Bank, they're going pretty fast because they're headed to turn out 19. And I had one lock it up and come right up behind me, and I was pretty sure I was hit. But I was gonna hold my ground because I was gonna be able to say, hey, listen, this is what I was told was legal to do, is to make a 3-lane turn.
Why don't we get you and Mr. Craig maybe to meet with Mr. Dew and talk about it and see if there's any new ideas or something?
I'll be happy to go out there and look at it.
If I might add to, to Mr. Dew's defense, for sure, I did not know that this was still an issue. It has not remained on the agenda under old business. It hasn't been brought up for quite some time, and I think that we all assumed very safely that it was a non-issue anymore.
Yeah.
So,
No, and I
if you wish to bring it back, we can put it back on the agenda.
If you would, well,
Because Mr. Dew was not prepared for that
I know, that's why-
comment, so,
that's
I don't
why-
think that's fair to him.
That's why I wanted to do it
Okay.
downstairs, and that's why I wasn't able to do it downstairs.
Well, I just.
But and I tell you, life is not fair sometimes, and so we'd ask about. I'd ask about this and ask about this, and we actually had not had there was no finality that I knew to it, and that's just one of those things when we came up with the things that had been on the agenda that we had put back on that's now under old business. I just didn't think about it. I thought about it. What made me think about it is that I went down to Brown's the other day, to Brown Dental, to drop off a payment down there, and I almost got rear-ended.
Well, So
Mr. Duke
let's
never
put
had wanted
it,
that to
let's put it
happen.
on old business.
Mr. Duke
And let's
never
get
wanted that to
you
happen.
and
I know
Mr.
that.
Craig to meet with them before the next council meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Well, in talking to the girls inside, they said it is still a reoccurring problem. I think that and I think that Mr. Kelly probably can understand that too. He goes down there, you know, because I know they've mentioned it to him too. And so, you know, it's just, you know, it is an ongoing problem. It's not gonna sell itself, you know, they were at one time, when people did that turn from the third lane, they were pulling them over up in the lot, you know, and, giving them warnings not to make that 3-lane turn. They're not doing that anymore, my understanding is, so. Okay. There you go. Sorry,
So-
John, I didn't want to do that up here, so.
Okay. Mr. Howard?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Howard is now a man of leisure. Congratulations. Okay, and I don't really have anything. I attended the Tobacco Commission meeting this month, and there wasn't a whole lot of activity except for education. This was mostly about educational grants, and there are some big workforce development opportunities at Virginia Highlands Community College if anybody knows a student or potential student.
I forgot that.
Okay, and the annual Martin Luther King Day commemoration is on January the 14th. And the intergenerational forum is at 12:30.
The march is at 1:30.
Oh, okay, I was thinking March what?
No, which one?
Okay, and the march is at 1:30, so they start at Charles Wesley United Methodist Church,
At 1:30.
322 East Main Street in Abingdon. Celebrations at 2 at Abingdon United Methodist Church.
Mrs. Mayor Lowe, if I might interrupt, we would hope that you would look at the boards and commissions.
Oh.
Don't forget that we have a reappointment on there as well, so before we get out of here too quickly.
Yes, ma'am. So, we have a reappointment of Carol to the Sinking Springs Cemetery Committee, who is eligible to serve another term. Council, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Ms. Lee to the Sinking Spring Cemetery Committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have we asked?
I haven't spoken with her, but Greg didn't seem to think there'd be a problem.
Okay.
I think she knows she's up for reappointment. Wasn't she here last month?
She was here within the last couple of meetings.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so roll call, please.
Mr. Craig? Mrs. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mayor Lowe?
Aye. And so what I would like to say to the public is if there's anything that you hear after public comments, if you will send that in an email to me, I will be happy to distribute it to the full council, okay? Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Now,
Don't read them all.
announcements. So we're past some of the announcements. The January 13th is Del McCory Band and Bill and the Bells. The doors open at 7:15. We have, what is the January the 13th? That Lee Jackson Day?
Yeah.
Okay, so Lee Jackson Day is Friday, and Monday is Martin Luther King Day, and the town offices will be closed both of those days. January the 14th is Jams at Barter Theater. John Cowan with Darren Brooke, Aldridge, and Zoe and Cloyd. Doors open at 7:15. And January the 15th is the infamous String Dusters. We have contra dances on the 14th and the 28th at the community center. We have town talk with the mayor, January the 18th. I'm assuming that since this has been publicized for at least a month, that if any council wants to attend, this is notice of that event, right? Okay, so we are not limited, we're not gonna break the meeting regulations if we have more than 2 council members there.
On the town talk? No, it's listed as an event. I think that would be perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the chamber luncheon tomorrow. I think we'll have more than, but we've got it noticed, so it's okay.
Okay, so
Yeah,
all
that's
the
fine.
council members are invited to come to the White Birch Juice at 8 a.m. New Knowledge starts again on January the 18th with Put Your Business on the Map with Google. 20th, we have January Jams Mandolin Orange. 21st, January Jams Parker Millsap. January 24th is through February the 28th. We are doing the Washington County, 4th Annual Washington County Business Plan Challenge. Today was the deadline, and when I left my office at 4:30, we had 15 applicants.
How much
And
money is that for?
a $5,000 award for the startup, a $5,000 award for the expanding, and then there's a second and third place award for each one of those. And, you know, it's been so successful that some private businesses have started contributing. Spiegler Blevins gives the startup a year's CPA services. And Penn Stewart helps the do their business entity formation. So it's been a really good program, and we've got some new business types. We've got a light industry this year, and we've got a couple of agribusinesses this year. So we're pleased that we've gotten some more diversification in the applications.
Mayor, I've got a quick question.
Sure.
Quick. Do we have, if we're coming to your talk, do we need to give public notice if there's
That's
more
what
than-
I've just asked.
Okay.
No, we can all come.
We can all come.
We've had notice out for a month.
I would certainly, I'm sure y'all know you can't have quasi-council meetings, but
Right,
you
we
can
can't.
attend.
Like,
Yeah,
we-
that would be a really bad
We
idea,
can't vote on which
but.
we can't vote on which
Well, you
sandwich is the
can't
best.
talk.
now.
No.
You can't, you know, you're not having a meeting either, so I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you need to do, it's like a social function, and you don't talk business. And you don't get together as a group and make any kinds of decisions.
Right,
But
we're
you
really
can
there,
talk, you can
I mean, we can have conversation, but we're really there to listen,
Yeah.
you know, and hear what people have to say.
If I also might point out too, the January Jam with, I think it was the AJ Croce guy, was supposed to be happening this past Saturday night, and it was canceled because the
He
weather
was
was so
there,
bad.
it was the next night.
Oh,
He
is
was
that
there,
the
he
one?
was there Friday night.
Okay,
AJ Croce.
whoever was supposed to be there Saturday night, it got canceled. It's been rescheduled, and just be on the lookout for when, I think they've already rescheduled it, but I really can't remember what the date is, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I had,
know it's
I had
on there.
people stay with me, and I had a lot of people talk about A.J. Croce, who was Jim Croce's son, you know,
Right.
Time in the Bottle and stuff, and they said it was a really, really good.
Yeah, I heard
Excellent.
nothing but fabulous reviews for him.
We'll try to get that out on Wolf Whistle when we find out what the rescheduled date is, if anybody had a ticket for that, so.
January 28th is the indoor garage sale at the Southwest Higher Education Center. February the 5th and 6th is the 66th Annual Rotary Frolics. And February the 11th is the Heartwood Valentine's Evening Dinner.
They said make reservations.
Reservations are required, and this is one of the Heartwood events that sells out, so make your reservations early. Is there anything else, council? No? Staff? Thank you all so much, and meeting